Everyone, we're going to go ahead and get started with our community development meeting. Today's date is February 27th, 2025. The time is 9 a.m. In attendance are Commissioners Eberline, Duncan, and Matari. I'm going to call this meeting to order. Today, I don't think there's any need for any opening remarks. I want to poll for conflicts of interest.
Actually, can we do changes to the agenda?
I'm sorry. I skipped over that.
That's okay.
No, changes to the agenda.
So I'd like to make a motion that we accept and approve the amended agenda for this morning's meeting. There was just a wrong item listed under deliberations, but the amended agenda was posted within outside of 24 hours of the meeting. So I just want to make that motion that we accept the amended agenda.
Second.
Commissioner Eberline?
Aye.
Commissioner Duncan?
Aye.
Chair Matari?
Aye. Motion
then-
carries.
Sorry, then one more thing. I would like to handle the agenda at 3-2-1. Item 3, we have people in the audience, and then item 2, and then item 1, so we are able to continue that until 10 a.m. or take a recess.
I don't have any problem with that. Commissioner Eberline? No? Okay. We don't need a motion for that. Okay, well, we now let's poll for conflicts of interest.
None.
None? Okay, and none here. All right, we will begin with our business item. Item 3, Windsong Lane update. And Craig Davidson.
Good morning, Commissioners. Craig Davidson, for the record, Deputy Director of Operations. The purpose of bringing this before you is for action after discussion. I've got some course of action recommendations based on what we're going to discuss, but I thought in the interim right now I'd just give Commissioner Eberline kind of a background of where this started. So the parcel we're going to talk about, Commissioner Eberline, is it's basically a recorded easement, and it's about a 1.3 acre parcel of land. The county's had it. It's been an easement since about 1977. The county's had it in possession on 4 separate occasions because of tax issues. It was sold to private owner, which again was sold to private owner, which is where we are today with this issue. So the aerial, it's basically off northern Seeking aerial. You've got Highway 53 is across. Windsong Lane is basically this lane right here, and it's a private lane that has access to several properties to the south. This is basically just a Google map overlay looking at Windsong Lane southbound off Highway 53, and it's about a 60-foot wide dedicated easement for the residents along that road. We've had several code enforcement cases, 3 to be exact. The dates in yellow are when they were basically statused. The first one was a violation of temporary intermittent use of an RV. A gentleman who is the current owner brought an RV on there and started living in it with he and his family. He's since removed it, and we did issue a legal notice for imminent legal action. We suspended it for this offense because he did remove it. He still has fees due. The second one, which came into effect, he basically left a bunch of construction debris, garbage, and other items, tires and things like that, on the parcel. The debris still remains, and the NOV is recorded as of February 14th, 2025. Now, there was also a zoning infraction that was basically reported by the residents in the area for unsecured domestic fowl. They had some chickens loose. And it's due to record on March 14th, 2025, so it still hasn't been recorded. I've just got some previous pictures. I personally was out there on February 25th and was greeted by a passerby.
Is that a turkey or a chicken?
Chicken. I believe it's a rooster, but didn't make any noise when I was there, so I really couldn't tell. And then, so basically what we see is it's snow covered. It's hard to see, but there's a bunch of sticks and things like that piled up. He's got some self-made fences in there. Now, none of this is obstructing the actual drive path through there. It's in a kind of a rock bed where many trees are located also, but not anywhere in the roadway. But again, it's still within the easement. He's held some various structures, built them, put some fabric with signage. And this is a recent photograph. George Sepulveda, code compliance supervisor, was out there as late as the 25th this week just to kind of see the status, to give you kind of a bird's eye view of what he saw. He's got still remains some personal camping equipment, things like that, which is not in violation of county code. As you can see, mattress is still laying there with, hasn't been disposed of.
What does that say on there?
Batch pad, no Karens.
Batch pad, no Karens?
Correct. And so, I'll go into it a little bit here. As you can see in the background, there's some tires there, just stacked up. Probably need to be removed as well. So we've had recent owner communication. Basically, the owner contacted us, February 19th, said, hey, it's clean. So George Sepulveda went out, conducted a compliance inspection, basically addressed it, no, it's really not clean to the standards we need to be able to release a code violation. He asked if the chickens were removed. The owner replied that he thought they had, but didn't take count. I had conversation with one of the residents yesterday, said they are still there. One of the residents is still feeding them at this time, and they are still unsecured. So where do we go from here? Potential courses of action. On the occupied RV, basically he's in compliance other than outstanding fees. The rubbish and garbage, well, there's 4 courses of action. It's in recorded status. We can keep it there. We can establish a date certain for compliance to go forward with any progressive enforcement action that you would like to see. We can also initiate the enhanced CV fee of the $1,000 a day. That's an option. And we could also initiate the first notice of intended legal action if deemed necessary. For the unsecured domestic file, really, we can't take any further action until the date of the recording. So there's no decisions for that until after that date. I think that's can be resolved. All he has to do is show up and pick them up. So what I wanted to bring up to you is Ordinance 586 that we passed September 2023. Basically said the director may impose a civil penalty for the recorded violations and comply if failure to comply for any of the requirements not to exceed $1,000 a day, up to $20,000 per incident offense. Where that goes is when the discussion was brought up, we were talking about the egregious aspect of the code violations. We don't have it in our definition, but basically egregious is conspicuously bad or flagrant in the definition of the Merriam-Webster dictionary. So the question is it enough based on that to establish a $1,000 fee per day per incident? And you saw the pictures. That's why I just want to kind of put that at the forefront of your mind. So really the only major issue is the rubbish and garbage. And he's been communicative with us, but the only thing he's really made compliance measures to is remove the RV, which that was a life safety thing for some other reasons as well, over the aquifer, potentially sewage drainage and everything else. But this is really the biggest issue at hand.
How long has this person been living there?
Well, he's actually been gone from the park. He just comes back. He removed the RV probably about a month and a half ago before the snow and moved to Bonner County with it. We don't have a forwarding address. The RV is no longer there.
How do you communicate with them?
Cell phone.
Cell phone?
Cell phone.
Okay. Do you have any questions, Commissioner Duncan?
I don't.
No? Any more questions?
For myself, if somebody bought a piece of property and parked it over there, hey, it's your property. Nobody else has any rights to your property. That's my thoughts. Now, if it becomes a hazard to health or to other persons, and I don't know if that falls in that category or not.
So
Because
this,
my lawn, when I mow my lawn, I want it about this tall. I don't like running lawn. I hate lawnmowers and all that kind of stuff. So the neighbors over next door, they don't like me.
Right.
Because I have tall grass.
Well, and the cautionary statement I would make is we really have to look at the spirit of the intent of the ordinance written back in September of 2023 in terms of the egregiousness of the act or the incident in effect. We've done that on one occasion, and it was a significant life safety issue, and it was 3 violations. It was a commercial property, but It had the necessary effect, I think, intended by the spirit of the board, and it obviously met the letter of the ordinance as well.
Director Callahan?
Thank you, Chair. One other thing I can add for Commissioner Eberlein's benefit is that the larger picture of this really gets back to how the county disposes of property. And at the moment, the treasurer believes once they send something to tax sale, if they get a bid, they must accept it, and they have. And that's how this actually ended up in the possession that it is now for, I think, the third time. Is that right, Craig?
Fourth time,
Or
actually.
fourth time.
Yes.
But one of the things we've talked about before you're swearing in is there a more efficient way the county could look at these properties before they're sold? Because in cases like this, after they've been to tax sale, they come to community development, we give the county commissioners a referral response suggesting that properties like this really shouldn't be sold to individuals because A, it has an easement from one side to the other all the way across it, so it can't be used for anything but right-of-way. And B, it's not eligible for building permits. So that's the sort of thing we would normally, if it weren't already sold under, the treasurer's thinking, we would normally advise the board that this is one should go to the neighbors. And the reason I thought you should know that is this is the main concern, as I've heard it, that the neighbors have, is that this property should never have ended up in private possession in the first place. So this is an issue we need to resolve, in my view, amongst ourselves in department head level and commissioner level.
And there was something that wasn't mentioned today that was discussed prior, and that is that there were stakes along the side of the property where the road was with coyote heads stuffed on them. So, just,
I do that too when I was hunting them.
well, I think it's just a matter of, it was not something that people are used to seeing when they drive home every day, and, a little bit of a difference there.
North Idaho.
And Commissioner Matar is exactly correct. I apologize.
Oh, no, it's okay.
Those hazards were significant, but they were removed by the residents there because they were concerned about those hazards. Other than the coyote head, I think that was somebody else that removed it, but they were it was basically looked like, I believe, 2x6s. And they had nails driven up in them, so they were facing up, spaced proportionally apart. So I think that's the best illustration I can give on that.
So, Mark, again, this property is unbuildable. It's a road easement. It is not a parcel of land. It is by definition, but it is not one. It is literally a road easement that this man bought and put his trailer on and then started putting all the other stuff on. So that's why it should really have been sold to the neighbors and not to a private party, because he has no ability to put any living arrangements on there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And we've had significant amount of input from the residents and also just pending code changes. It's one of those things for intermittent RV use on certain parcels. It's like if it's an easement, shouldn't allow for RVs, so we can amend, when we go through our Omnibus 4, we can add those things in the code to make it more specific and defined for things like this, because it's definitely an anomaly.
I'm just curious, has the county provided a very specific list of items to remove? And does this property owner know that list?
Yes, it was in a verbal conversation that George had with the property owner.
Yeah, but nothing in writing, though?
No, we don't have an address for him.
Okay.
Communicates via phone only. Sheriff's Department has actually tried to locate him as well for an related issue to citation because of the domestic file. But we don't know where he is in Bonner County.
Yeah.
So all we have is a cell phone. That's the best means of communication we have.
And the property location itself?
Correct.
Where you could provide notice there if you had to?
Correct.
So,
Correct.
okay. Well, what are the thoughts here of this board on, because it is an action item?
I think that proceeding with legal action would be appropriate right now. If he does return and starts adding more things back, then I think the $1,000 a day fine might be appropriate. But right now, he's removed the significant amount, and I think just notice of legal action might be appropriate now. That's my initial thoughts.
Commissioner Eberline.
I'm mixed on this. There is no way you can park a vehicle
Would you
out there,
please
is
put
that
the
correct?
map back up? Yeah, we'll show you. He didn't really show you, but I mean,
Also, Commissioner, I would like
It's on.
Which one do you want?
the first one where it shows the actual Windsong lane.
That one?
No, well, yes, see, so that's a picture of it, okay? That is the 1 acre piece of property that's long and skinny, goes all the way back. And then the one before that. Okay.
It usually covers the entirety of
Yeah,
that part.
see this little tiny skinny thing? That's what that 1 acre piece is. So he can't ever build anything there, can't ever live there. All it is a road easement that somehow got separated from those parcels when all the platting was done.
If I may approach, I actually have the parcel history for you.
$10,000 sale price.
So the part of the issue too, and one of the neighbors is actually on Zoom right now. This person was so egregious in their behavior, she had to get a no contact order. So this person has not just been a neighborly neighbor, they've literally been disruptive.
Okay.
There's been county resources to include the deputies that had approximately 22 calls for service to that during the time that he was living there in the RV as well.
Well, you tried.
Yeah.
He does seem to be responsive to written correspondence. It's sent to a relative of his in the last notice of violation he received. Immediately after you received that, that precipitated a phone call to code compliance. So your recommendation might stand well with that contact if Pat were to generate that letter for.
The thing that stands out to me is that we have to make sure we give good notice to people. And notice over the phone, to me, is not sufficient.
Okay.
I would argue that we should have a very specific list of items to be removed.
Mm-hmm.
And one of those items on the list is not to add anything else to the property.
Okay.
And that they have a deadline to comply, whether that's the end of next month or whatever a reasonable amount is, with a very specific list. And if after that date they have not complied, then I think it's appropriate to move forward. Because we don't want to be in a situation where we're arguing with someone over what was said over the phone, that there is no documentation of that.
Right.
But I would agree, given the amount of disruption that has occurred in that neighborhood, a number of times the sheriff's office has been called, that someone had to get what kind of order?
So I think it was a no contact
A
order.
no contact order, that it probably is time for us to kind of step it up a little bit. But those are my thoughts on that, is just provide something in writing, leave it at the property, call the guy, talk to him, try to meet with him, hand it to him, use the other method of sending something.
To a relative.
Yeah, that's the current address we have. And he has been picking that up. I believe
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
With a deadline. And at that point, proceed accordingly.
Well, with the circumstances having been explained, I think I would go along with taking some sort of action. Because it's not safe for anybody else out there either.
Right.
There's a lot of dangers that can pop up on that kind of a situation.
Well, does that mean you want to take action now, or do you want to provide written notice?
So I'd like to do both. I'd like to provide the written notice like you explained, and legal action is imminent by date certain if these things are not taken care of.
Well, yeah, that would be in the documentation, but it would be very clear, specific list and a deadline. But without doing, without giving them something specific to comply with, because he has been engaging with us. So, and again, over the phone, what does this person remember? How did they interpret what was given to them, communication-wise? It's a little bit of a gray area.
Well, I think it's important to get it done quickly because we don't want to have any bad things happen in the interim. And so if we're going to do it, we should do it now.
Well, what does this board think is a reasonable amount of time?
Well, I think the snow's melting. I live in that general area, and I think that 2 weeks before the March 14th notice is filed. So by March 13th, we can go out and inspect it. And if it's not then I think the 14th, the notice gets filed and we take legal action.
Does community development agree with that as far as a reasonable time frame and to be able to communicate?
Yes, we can make that happen. And
Yeah.
code compliance personnel here that just understood what you said, so I'll make sure it gets out by Monday.
So March 13th is the deadline to comply
Yes.
with a specific list. Okay, I don't think we need a motion. I think you've got direction and, so, okay. Anything else on that? No?
Nope.
All right, thank you. Next item, number 2. MSF 24-0003, Bunco Ranch. This is deliberations, and it's an action item.
And Mr. Oh, is it not Vlad?
Vlad.
Oh, it is Vlad, so. There he is. You're up, Vlad. Should be quick.
Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, Vlad Finkel with Kootenai County Community Development.
Can we speak up?
Is your microphone on?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's better.
I'll have a very brief presentation on their request for a final plat approval of a 12-lot major subdivision. This is case number MSF 24-0003, Bunco Ranch by Dom Construction and Brian Rush. The subject property is located off of Nunn Road, the north side of Kootenai County. The property is approximately 80 acres in size, and the original preliminary approval was granted by the Board of County Commissioners in December of 2022. The plat consists of 12 residential lots with the new interior road coming off of Nunn Road and 3 separate common driveways. The plat was approved to have individual and shared wells and individual septic systems on each lot to treat effluent discharge. The applicant submitted the final plat application before the 2-year deadline, and we had been going back and forth with the applicant to address some of the compliance requirements originally imposed through the conditions of approval. As you can see, based on the photos before you, the interior roads and the common driveways have been constructed by the applicant. The new interior road will be dedicated or has been dedicated to Lakes Highway District for maintenance purposes. and the common driveways will be privately maintained through the CCNRs. The bonding through the highway district, as I understand, has been completed through the road development agreement, and the warranty bonding for the common driveways has been accepted by the county. We'll hold that for a period of 12 months and then release it upon a completion and, upon a final letter from the project engineer stating that there are no deficiencies with it. Other than that, there are no other changes or any additional information that needs to be heard or addressed this morning. We have submitted a recommendation where we have provided clarification and confirmation on each of the conditions of approval and how the applicant has met them, and we request or recommend that it be approved.
Thank you. Any questions? No? Okay, well, this is an action item. I don't have any questions, so,
Motion?
yep.
I move that we approve MSF 24-0003, which is Bunco Ranch.
So be it.
Commissioner Eberline,
Aye.
Commissioner Duncan.
Aye.
Chair Matari.
Aye, motion carries. Next up is a public hearing. This is on the emergency moratorium on data centers, and we gave public notice on this, describing that this public hearing would begin at 10 a.m. And because the meeting started at 9, we are going to go into recess until 10 a.m. and then begin the public hearing for that.
Well, actually, I'd like to begin the public hearing now.
Okay.
And then we'll recess until 10 to catch anybody else who shows up at 10 for that. And the reason is we do have somebody here in person to speak now.
Okay. Is
So-
that okay if we start it now? Because I was under the impression we would actually start the public hearing at 10.
Yeah. So- Just Susanna's. Okay.
Okay.
Then I think the safest thing would be just to go into recess and continue this to 10 a.m.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So it's 9:27 a.m. and we will recess until 10 a.m. It's 10 a.m. We are back from recess. Next item up is a public hearing, an emergency moratorium on data centers. This is an action item, and we'll begin with Director David Callahan.
Thank you, Commissioners. Good morning, everyone. This item seeks your consideration of a 182-day emergency moratorium to limit building permit approvals so that community development staff can work up a draft concept of processing these data centers by a special use or conditional use permit. That would give us the ability to condition these kinds of facilities to ensure that they are a proper fit for their proposed locale, but also deal with major impacts such as the aquifer protection, the enormous amounts of electricity these facilities can consume, transportation impacts, air quality impacts, they go on and on. I think we discussed this briefly at our earlier meeting, but if you'd like, I could briefly highlight that level of details. But the main point I want you to get across or to take away is that this needs to happen quickly because we have already had contact of people that want to do these sorts of facilities. And at the moment, they are by right, meaning they just pull a building permit, and then we have to live with that.
Okay, would anyone up here like to have a more in-depth discussion from Director Callahan?
I think we could compare it to the chicken thing earlier today.
Okay. So did you have more that you wanted to add, or?
Well, just to give it a sense of urgency, I noticed on Monday that Apple is proposing $500 billion worth of investment over the next 4 years. Part of that money is to deal with the servers that provide the mechanics to these data centers. And also, they plan to do a construction facility in Houston that's 250,000 square feet to produce those kinds of servers. So $500 billion, even if you'll pardon the Texas parlance, that's real money. And so if one company is doing that, you can imagine what the sense of urgency is around the nation for these kinds of things.
Mm-hmm. And they also draw a lot of water.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
And
anywhere
that's
between 500,000 and 5 million gallons a day.
Yeah, and so that's definitely an issue out west where water is much more of a finite resource. Well, if there's nothing else to be said about that, I guess the next step, no discussion up here.
It is a public hearing.
Right.
You know, so I guess first we'll ask for anyone here who would like to speak in.
Just call the people.
Okay. Well, we can read off this. Suzanne Scheidt, in favor and wishes to speak.
Good morning. Is the microphone on?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you for the opportunity to provide comment. My name is Suzanne Scheidt, and I'm representing the Aquifer Protection District. APD supports the emergency moratorium for the data center and has provided written comment to the Board of County Commissioners. APD is specifically concerned about potential degradation to aquifer water quality from cooling practices associated with these data centers. APD further supports additional review by Kootenai County staff to designate appropriate zones in which data centers may be located and to regulate the placement and building of data centers via the conditional use permitting process. Thank you.
Thank you. I have Jenny Gray, who is in favor and would like to speak.
Commissioners, before she speaks, we would like to enter the Aquifer Protection District letter into the record.
Entered into record as Exhibit B 1000.
Go
Right,
ahead.
thank you for the opportunity. My name is Jenny Graham with Panhandle Health District's Aquifer Protection Program. Panhandle Health is also in favor of this moratorium. With these types of data centers, there's just a lot of unknowns. Much of that's due to intellectual property, but when these are proposed to an area, we just don't know a lot about them. And most of the tracts of open land in Kootenai County that could house large data centers of this size are directly over the Rathlin Prairie Aquifer. And without a full understanding of the types of chemicals used at these facilities, the type of wastewater generated, and the type of wastewater system that they're proposing, Panhandle Health District does have concerns. Water quantity use is typically the main concern with these types of facilities. And while that is outside of Panhandle Health District's jurisdiction, water quantity is a primary concern that citizens of Kootenai County bring to us. We interface with the public every day, and that is, I think, probably the number one question we get asked. Is there enough water in our aquifer? We don't have the answer to that, but just to express to you the concern that is in the community regarding that issue. Additionally, Kootenai County's Aquifer Protection District Board is statutorily limited to only address water quality. Panhandle Health District attends every APD meeting and can attest to the fact that the APD board also is continually approached by members of the public with water quantity concerns. Additionally, at the state level, there are large regulatory gaps within the state rules, and without some sort of local oversight, whether that's an ordinance or a conditional use permit process, there would still be gaps that would not provide full protective measures to our really valuable aquifer here. So Panhandle Health is in support of this moratorium and want to be a resource in the process if you guys have any questions. So, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in favor of the moratorium? Yes, come on up. 3 minutes.
Tim Vollis, Rathdrum Prairie. I'm in favor of it because I think we need to look at what it's going to do to our aquifer. And with all the building going on the prairie right now, how much water that is taking for all the building, for the new housing developments that are coming and everything else, and what they've said about how much water this is going to take. And where's all the water going to come from? What's it going to leave for the farmers and or the developments that we're going to do? So I think that's something that needs to be looked at for down the road, because there's only so much water that we've got down there. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the audience? Jonathan, anyone on Zoom or the telephone?
No one on Zoom, Chair.
Okay, anyone against this moratorium? Anybody on Zoom or the telephone who would like to speak against? Okay. So with that said, I think unless there's anything the commissioner has to talk about.
I move that we end public testimony and enter into deliberations.
So be it.
Commissioner Eberline,
Aye.
Commissioner Duncan,
Aye.
Chair Matari.
Aye. Okay, we're in deliberations.
I think it's appropriate with the natural resources and the utilities that would be required for this type of use, that we should give planning, zoning, and our community development time to review it.
Commissioner Eberline?
I can't complain about this.
Yep, I agree. So with that said, I'll take a motion.
I move that we approve the emergency moratorium on data centers for 182 days to appropriately assess the relevant zones and conditional use permit process to ensure our natural resources and utility requirements will be addressed.
So be it.
Commissioner Eberline,
Aye.
Commissioner Duncan,
Aye.
Chair Matari.
Aye, motion carries. 10:09. Oh, I'm sorry, Pat, did you have something you wanted to add?
I will draft a resolution memorializing the moratorium and bring it before you for Tuesday's business meeting.
Okay,
But the moratorium would start today.
okay,
Great.
thank you.
Thank you. And with that said, 10:09, meeting adjourned.